Hi everyone. As we approach this Easter, we do so with heavy hearts and a deep sense of uncertainty in our world. Perhaps for the first time, we're fully able to understand how perplexed, anxious, and disappointed the disciples must have been at the conclusion of that very first Good Friday. Nothing seemed to make sense and nothing was the same anymore. How similar it is for us today. How quickly things have changed and continue to change. It is at times like these that we need each other and even more need our unchangeable God as the stabilizer in the storm around us. People are scared. There's no other reason to explain things like the panic buying of toilet paper that has recently occurred. The fear of the uncertain future was surely the reason we saw this sort of thing happening. As Christ followers and as a Baptist community, can I encourage you to reach out to one another at this time of fear and vulnerability? Let's remember to support those who are feeling the weight of worry and uncertainty, and be sure to seek support when we begin to feel our own burdens too deeply. Indeed, Jesus himself says to us in Matthew 11:28 and 29, "Come to me, all you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." This Lent, we find ourselves not only in a spiritual time of waiting and preparing, but also in a literal sense. We may not be sure of what we are waiting for, or we might prefer not to ponder it too deeply. But the Lenten experience is the waiting in the darkness and turning to God in prayer. It can feel lonely and dark. It can feel hopeless. It can feel like it may be more than we can manage at this time. But the promise of the resurrection awaits on Easter Sunday. And that same God promises us the same thing still, that we are his dearly loved children and we are never alone. Our churches may have been forced to pause or suspend our usual ways of gathering. But God neither pauses or suspends meeting with us. He is with us always and in every way through his Son, the resurrected Jesus. We can still meet and be connected, although in different ways through technology, to encourage and support one another and to be community. If this is the first time you've experienced not being able to be spiritually nourished through your local church at Easter, or if this is the first time you've needed that spiritual nourishment, there are still ways to find that source. There are many Baptist churches live streaming worship services, and you can use the BUV website to find links to them. Pastors and our BUV support hub staff are still available for pastoral care. We're also fortunate to have the technology to connect in small groups to share with one another. If you need specific support or a listening ear, you can still do that through our churches and pastors. At this time, let's remind ourselves that we, the people of God, are the church, and his church will prevail through these challenging days. I'd like to lead you in a prayer, so I'd ask you to join with me right now. Help us, Lord, to show grace where there is panic, to build faith where there is fear, to bring comfort where there is anxiety, to bring light where there is darkness. We want to be the hands of Jesus and touch our world with your love, to be the feet of Jesus, going where the Spirit leads us, to be the voice of Jesus, speaking words of life and love, to be the ears of Jesus, listening to the weeping and the faintest cries, to make a difference wherever we can. Help us, Lord, not to cower into personal comfort, but to stand up and be counted in times like these. A discouraged world needs a courageous church. This, Lord, is our prayer in this time of great challenge and uncertainty around our world. In Jesus' name, we agree together. Amen. I'd like to take just a few more moments of your time to mention some other things. I want to thank and encourage you for the way you're adapting to this very challenging time. Here at the BUV Support Hub, we're hearing some great stories of churches innovating and adapting to these circumstances we find ourselves in. This is a hard time, but please know that we in the BUV team are cheering you on and holding you in prayer. I also want to acknowledge that it's been a confusing week as we've been trying to interpret the two-person gathering restrictions and what this means for churches live streaming or preparing for online services. The other unclear information that has seemed to be contradictory throughout the week has been around who can work, just employed staff or volunteers. We are endeavouring to get clarity on these issues, and I suggest you check in regularly with the advice on our COVID-19 webpage as things hopefully become clearer in the days and weeks ahead. I do want to add that what we have on our website is advice and not a directive, so that each church will need to make an interpretation of how they handle the advice. We certainly encourage you to respect the spirit in which the stage 3 restrictions have been made, which is about flattening the curve of the coronavirus. Fines for breaching these restrictions are large, so please bear that in mind because we don't want you to get a fine. Another thing I'd like to highlight is the importance of pastoral care at this time. While it's great to have church services online and live streaming, connection and care can be done in many simple and effective ways, such as phone calls and the use of easy technologies like WhatsApp or Zoom groups. In fact, as we look at countries in further lockdown than we are here in Australia, we're learning that the internet is crashing due to the volume of users, and it's possible that in the future we too may face a time where we need to go back to the very basics of communication, such as phone calls. There's a helpful reflection on how we can provide pastoral care in our current circumstances further on in this newsletter. So I encourage you to take a look at that as you continue reading this newsletter. Some good news is this week has been the government announcement of the JobKeeper initiative, which will provide much needed assistance for employers and employees. This has been interpreted by our finance team for churches and pastors and is available under our COVID-19 resource webpage. Finally, we have a new prayer calendar for April on our website and a number of prayer initiatives coming up, including a BUV Prayer Week initiative following Easter. More information will be circulated on this in the coming week. In closing, I want to assure you that our BUV Support Hub staff and Union Council are praying for you as together, as a Baptist movement, we seek to navigate these challenging times. Take care and God bless.